All right. So one of the nice things about working at Secure HR is the people that I know I get to interact with every day. So whether that's Jim or Tara or Lindsay or Alex and many others that are on the team, it's a delight to be able to spend time with them, do some of the humorous podcast videos that we do, but also talk about product development, new releases, and things that are kind of rolling off the line. So I thought I'd spend a little bit of time giving the team an opportunity to ask me questions about what I'm doing in the land of product development, and take it away, gang. I'm here. I'm here for your questions.
I'll go first, actually, just because wrongful termination to me seems probably like a big deal
Yeah.
for companies. But with Secura HR, do we, I guess, walk companies or HR professionals or business owners through the process of termination? Is that part of what we offer?
Yeah, so one of the procedures, so there's six sources or types of content, like the policies, procedures, documents, so forth, so on. One of those is procedures, and if you're terminating an employee, there's documents, sometimes there's agreements, and sometimes there are procedures. All three of which can be, and policies, depending on what the nature of the termination is, that can all be involved. So you can really have like up to four, and even a fifth would be training, because we've got training on how to effectively let people go, so on and so on. So there's a lot of content within the platform to legally walk somebody or walk somebody through legally how to let somebody go without getting in trouble, and exact steps that need to be taken to do that. And then there's also optional stuff that's not legally required. That's just really good advice. Like if you're going to let somebody go, like really make sure that you pay attention to your policies and that those connect in with like the steps that you take. That's like more of a legally required thing or a ticked and tied thing. Especially if you created a policy that's a rule now that you've set up that you now need to follow. But then on an optional basis, like doing things like performance improvement plans or other things that aren't often legally required are really good. Making sure there's somebody else in the room with you when you let that person go. So there's lots of good optional things that we've got in the platform, which is all created because we started with lawsuits and we worked ourselves backwards, reading the court cases, reading why judges or courts ruled in favor of an employee, and like what are the things that the company could have done in order to minimize risk or reduce the likelihood that they would lose that lawsuit. Like what are the things they could have proactively done better, right?
Wow.
That's awesome.
One follow-up question on that as well. Some states, they have, I guess, I don't know much about this, but at will employment.
Yeah.
Do we help people differentiate and how to like navigate at will versus not? And
Yes. Yeah, we also talk a lot about the things that a company might mistakenly do to change that relationship. Many organizations don't pay close attention to the wording of policies or handbooks or other documents that can mistakenly create a contract between the company and the employee that does not allow the company to let that person go for any reason. And that can create real problems for a company if they're not really paying close attention to the things that their employees are given or signing.
wow.
Yep.
And we do all that.
Yeah,
I
yeah. I
mean,
mean,
help.
say that again?
I said help companies and HR. I mean, everybody. We help employees, HR professionals, businesses, everything. But incredible.
Yeah, there's some other, anyway, other questions.
Yeah.
I got a quick one.
You
So,
mentioned,
go ahead,
oh,
Lindsay.
I'm sorry,
No,
Alex. You
Lindsay.
had mentioned policies and notices, and I'm curious how that system works from an employee perspective. If we're acknowledging these policies that we're reading, how easy is it for an employee to go back in later and read those? Say it's been a month and I'm like, hey, I want to read that cell phone policy again. How quickly
Yeah.
can I access that?
Yeah, so we've created a portal, which is just a fancy word to describe a web page, which you can access on your phone or on your computer, that an individual employee has access to. And in that individual employee's portal, they have access to all of their HR content. So any handbooks or policies that may be separated from the handbook. Typically, policies are put in handbooks, right? For those that are familiar with handbooks, that's kind of like a delivery truck for policies. But so you have the handbook, any separated policies outside of the handbook, any documents, agreements, notices and posters, training. They're all accessible, like they're just there right on the page. And there's like a little, it kind of looks like a smartphone, like the little buttons. You click on the training button, and then it has a list of the trainings that have been shared with you by your organization. And you can review those at any time. You can look at those. And it's as easy as just clicking a button, going into your portal, and then clicking a button and looking at the stuff. I mean, it's really fast.
Awesome. Very cool.
We also have video presentations for all of our policies, meaning that there's the full text policy, but there's a short video presentation that explains in plain English what it's about.
Love that.
My turn.
Your turn, Alex.
Awesome. So here's the thing. I know that there are a lot of companies out there that have lawyers that have, say, a software that they've got that they do their payroll with and things like that. And they've got handbooks, and they've got, they've had a lawyer look over it. They have compliance as far as they know. And I know we've spoken to a number of companies, like you have spoken to them with the team. How many have we come across that are actually compliant?
None. Yeah, we've reviewed at this point thousands of policies, and we're working with, I know at this point, hundreds of companies with the Secure HR product, and we've never found a compliant handbook, meaning that every handbook we've reviewed is either missing policies, like illegally, has policies that are written illegally, like that's just not legal, which could be like out of date or some other reason. And I would say on average, we find about 12 mistakes. Here's the real backstory, right? So the competitive landscape looks like this. There's a company called Brightmind, great company. It's mid-teens, 15, 20,000, whatever it is per year, as a starting point, right? And that's a very much like it's an in-depth guide on how to do these things yourself. AI is not going to get it right. It doesn't have all the laws. You can ask any AI, like, how many employment laws are there in my state? It doesn't have that source material that you need. The Brightmind does a pretty darn good job. Then there was a company called 650. I think they were bought by Paychex. Also did a pretty good job, but they were only 2/3 compliant because they were missing training and they were missing notices and posters. So like there's 6 types of content. You need all of them. And there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they had 4 of the 6, which is 2/3. So you could get about 2/3 compliant using 650. And for some reason, I don't know what 650 tracks. Like they're pretty like out there in social media. There were 300 updates in 2025. There were 1,274 updates in the fourth quarter of 2025. So our attorneys in our group doesn't know what they're tracking, not to pick on them, but they're missing updates, right? So, and they don't have nearly as many policies. Like most of these websites, whether it's ADP or Paychex, you're like, oh, we'll get you compliant. Here's an add-on to your subscription, and companies just sort of sign off on it because they're already, I guess, mentally in their mind, they're like, oh, we're already connected. We'll just add $1,000 and they'll handle our stuff. But they don't have the laws and they don't have all the policies, and their templates they maybe have 50 or so templates, maybe 80 templates if like they're really advanced. We've got over 1,200 policies in our library. It's just, I mean, there isn't really a comparison, and then you want to get to like the why. Well, how is it even possible? Like, why is it that you're so much better? We're the only company that has all the HR laws. We can tell you by state, by city, exactly how many HR laws apply to your company, like down to the exact number, because we've grabbed all of those laws. We keep them up to date using a proprietary software that we call Watchtower, and we have a team of people that's dedicated to doing that. I mean, this company was built to be a way for other organizations to get compliant, and the only way you can do that is if you have the law. If you don't have all the laws, you're hiring lawyers, you're reading updates online that are just incomplete. It's a total poop show.
Yeah, makes total sense.
So
follow-up question on that one. If I was to sign up for a company and I buy that add-on and they're creating the legally compliant handbook for me, and then it turns out I was missing something in there, is that fault entirely on my company, or does the company that created the handbook share that with me when it comes to lawsuits?
They're not going to pay for the lawsuits, and they're not going to, I mean, they've got all the disclaimer language that you sign off on that this is, there's no guarantee that they've got. Like I know with Secure HR, I mean, we've got a money back guarantee. We also have a guarantee that if you're ever audited or somebody questions something, we will support that on our dollar, meaning we're not going to pay for a claim. Nobody does that, but we are going to step forward and take responsibility for anything that needs to be done, whether it's providing support or assistance. And we've not had situations where the stuff that we create through our software is ever in question as to its validity.
That's huge, though, knowing that support is there in the event that something is missed. Amazing.
My turn. All right, I'll give you a little more than a question, some information as well. So, I know a lot of business owners myself. I know a lot of entrepreneurs as well. Most of these guys start out solo. So, and they are oblivious of HR. It doesn't exist in their universe. And I know billion-dollar CEOs, HR doesn't exist in their universe. It's like a waste of money to some of these guys. So that being said, when does HR compliance start? One employee? Just you? Two employees? When do you actually turn your eyes to the problem and go, I have to do something?
Yeah, well, I mean, the quick answer would be if you have 5 or more employees, you are absolutely on the hook for a lot of laws in the U.S.
Nice.
I mean, I could definitely encourage companies below 5 employees to just get set up correctly to scale. And the reason I say that is that, I mean, it's common sense. Let me explain what I meant by that. It's common sense for anyone that I talk to that, hey, if we're doing something illegal, how's that going to go for our company? Are customers going to want to stay with us? No. Are we going to probably get caught and have bad things happen? Yeah, right. So like if I talk to a company that's making food and they find out that they're illegally putting ingredients in there that they shouldn't, and then that gets out, like their brand is dead, right? You find out that people are illegally hiring employees below a certain age. Like that gets out in social media, the company's dead. Like people leave, mass exodus, terrible company. Companies and executives know that like the very first step in any successful business is I got to follow the rules, truly. And the smart ones and the successful ones know this. Like, yeah, we got to follow the rules, right? And then following those rules, they build great products, they hire great people, they expand, and they do well. But at the foundation is this layer of like, I got to follow the rules. Because if I'm not following the rules, that's going to bite me in the ass. That's going to hurt everybody. Like that's like go out of business stuff, right? And what's super interesting, Jim, is that most business owners don't know that there are millions of employment laws. They don't know that if they have 5 employees, they're on the hook for these 6 types of content. They don't even know where to go get the content. And they may hear from someone and they may think, oh, I'll just hop into ChatGPT. I'll do this all on my own, right? But do that. Like, try it. And I don't mean that in an obnoxious way, but just make sure you ask the important question, which is, hey, ChatGPT or Claude or whatever you're using, do you know how many employment laws apply to my company? Do you know how many total employment laws there are in my state? Do you know every piece of content? Can you give me the training that needs to be given to my people? Do you know like you start digging in and you realize that what you're getting is information that it's feeding you, but it's incomplete and it's inconsistent and it's not accurate, right? And then you think, oh, I'll just go to a lawyer, right? Well, how much did you pay for that handbook? I mean, let's just map this out. So you go to a lawyer and you ask for a handbook and they're like, yeah, it's a compliant handbook. They've grabbed a template that they copy paste edited that hasn't really been analyzed, because if it was analyzed, they would have had to review, depending on how many states you're in, up to 6,000 legal changes last year to find the 50 policies that changed last year. In our own libraries, we had over 50 policies, individual policies that were legally impacted by the legal changes last year. And that lawyer that you're paying $1,000 or $1,200 or $2,000 to do this activity, math out the hours. For you to go look at and review that many laws, like that, there were nearly 6,000 total updates last year. To review that many laws, like let's just say that you're a super lawyer and you're able to do that in, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes for each law. So you're talking 2,000 hours. But did the lawyer do anything other than review law last year for employment law changes? They probably did something else. And it's not to pick on lawyers. I mean, they have the best intentions, but they know that this is one piece of the puzzle and they feel like they're getting it mostly right and they're helping you. And having something is better than nothing. That's the mindset. Having something is better than nothing. That's not true in all cases. Like obviously not having policies that are required, that's really bad. But having something that's wrong is maybe even badder. It's like you paid all this money and you didn't even get the thing that you paid for, right? So if you don't have software to manage this, like we have we've got a software that we use with our team that monitors all law in the U.S. and it keeps up to date within 24 hours, right? Without that software monitoring the millions of laws that are out there, there's no way any single law firm or attorney can stay on top of this type of law. And then without the direct connections to each law, directly connected to the HR content that we've created in our platform, you can't keep it up to date. Because even if we were to give them all those updates, like, hey, here's all the 1,274 updates that came in Q4. Who's going to then sit down and spend 600 hours to read it?
And then revise everything.
And then how many hours to revise? Like, and then where is that, right? So we had to create a software, which we call Watchtower, that will do a lot of that, do a lot of the heavy lifting. And then we have a team of legal content experts that like review the content, update the content, and then our team of lawyers that then update the HR content. Sorry. They update the laws themselves, which is one type of content. So they update the laws, and then the other team updates the HR content that gets published in our website. And then clients are notified, like, hey, there's an update to these policies. And anyway, you can't do this without software. It's just not possible. You just can't do it without software.
Yeah, and then I remember at the bigger companies, they would get, their handbooks and their whatever, and they'd spend all the time and money, but it never resulted in the protection that they actually paid for. It was so easy to get sued and lose because there were handbooks that had weird stuff in them. People didn't read them. You were told not to read them. It was very easy for someone to go to a lawyer and go, nah, my boss literally said, you don't need to bother with that.
Well, and the thing is that, and this is not to point the finger at lawyers. I'm an attorney, right? I went to law school. So the business model is I go to the attorney, they create some documents, and they send them to me. Something bad happens, and the lawyer's excuse is, oh, well, yeah, in the future, like let's set up a routine where I update and review these things. Like that's the excuse is that, well, you didn't pay me to keep these things up to date. You paid me to give you this document, which I gave you like 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And then the company dumbly blames themselves. They're like, oh yeah, you're right. I didn't pay you to update it. Like, time out. Are you paying that lawyer to keep your handbook up to date daily? And if that lawyer isn't updating your handbook daily and giving you a list of the laws that have changed daily, they're not keeping that 1 out of 6 pieces of content up to date. There's not. And that lawyer also can't prove that your people received it, and they can't prove when they looked at it and or when they signed it or when they acknowledged it, like unless you're having that lawyer come out to your company and meet with every single person. So if you don't have software tracking all that, you can't prove compliance. All you've wasted a bunch of money on is an incomplete, inconsistent, not fully legal document, which is just one step of compliance. Step 1 is go get all the stuff. The content. Step 2 is give it to your people and get them to view it, sign it, or acknowledge it. And step 3 is I've got to have a place that I can prove it. Because if I can't prove it, you're not compliant. I mean, you can tell everybody in the world, I had it, I gave it to them, I know they read it. Can you prove it? And if you can't prove it, you're done. So Secure HR has all of those in it. It has the employee, what we call employee compliance files, which are tied to individual employees. And you can see the day and time that each individual employee viewed, signed, or acknowledged the thing that we shared with them, the content that we shared with them, whether it was a training or policy or procedure. And it's that proof, like even for hiring managers, like proof that they went through and looked at the procedure for hiring, right? Mm-hmm. And I've got the day and time that they read that procedure and they acknowledged it, right? Now somebody comes and says, well, you fired this person and, the employees said that you did this. Well, no, we have a procedure for that. And you can see here, I can prove that this hiring manager, fire manager read this policy, and it's that much more evidence, right? That's what doctors use. Like, this is exactly what doctors do is they have these procedures that they follow and they've signed off that they have them documented. They sign off that they've done them. No one can really prove in many cases that they did the exact procedures, but they have these documents there that they've done the training on it. They sign off that they did it. And it's just one more piece of evidence to protect the company from lawyers that would exploit mistakes in order to get money out of a company.
Yeah. So say I have an employee that started in January and there's a big update to the time off policy in April later that year. How does Secure HR make sure that the employee sees the update to that policy when they've read the original policy back in January when they started.
Yeah, well, there's two options there. One is to have Secure HR automatically send that out to your people, which is just a setting. The other is that you'll get an email, you'll see the update, you go onto the website, there'll be a list of the policy updates, you review it, and then you click the button to share it with your employees. And then on the employee side, instead of having to reread my entire employee handbook, I get a link to just that policy. I click the button, it pops up, there's a video that walks through what the policy is about, new policy is there, they click acknowledge and understand, and then it stores it right in the system that they acknowledged it in, I guess that case, April.
Yeah, amazing.
Easy.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, we rebranded to Secure HR. It's a better name, but originally we were HR Law Made Easy. We wanted to do compliance made easy, but nobody knows what compliance is. It just simply means following the law. And we're like, yeah, we make HR laws easy, but it's long and.
It's a little bit better to say we make you secure, because sometimes we do need the legal experts to take the hard laws and make them understandable.
Yeah. Well, I know we're running out of time. Any other questions or anything that we didn't cover that you wanted me to go over?
All
No,
good
my
here.
only other question was around Watchtower, and you totally answered that.
Yeah, Watchtower is a unique technology. It took us many years to figure out how to do what we've done, which is how do you go out and get every, in this case, HR law, employment law, every type of law, statute, regulation, agency guidance, which is guidance from like the Departments of Labor, so on, court cases and more. How do you get all those laws? And that is a thing. Like going and getting them is a thing. It's an activity. And then next to that is like, how do you keep it up to date? Because every one of those law types is different in the way that it is kept up to date. Court cases are kind of their own unique thing, but the other law types, like they're different groups that change things and who changes them, when do they change, and being able to stay on top of that. And then finding a smart way to then get that information over to our legal research team, who then, the lawyers in our team, that then read those updates and make the final determination, like, is this something that requires us to change a piece of content in our platform? Do we need to update a training? Do we need to update a policy or a document, right? Or is this something that just confirms that what we have there is correct, right? It's like, it's confirmation. Or is there like a clarification, which is, okay, what's there is okay, but there's some additional information you may need to know about this thing, right? So having a team that does that and is able to do that it's really kind of the magic, if you will, of the platform. I mean, yeah, we have a lot of content and the software's pretty and it's easy to use. But what makes it accurate, what makes it the gold standard, if you will, in accuracy, is that Watchtower software and process. Without that, you can't do this. Like, if you don't have all the laws, there's no way to do what we do.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is why no one's done it before.
It's why no one's done it before.
Yeah.
Yeah, truly. I mean, the companies that have all the laws, like a Lexis or a Westlaw, great software, by the way, they don't create tools like this, because what they do is they sell those laws to lawyers who then read and then do handbooks and other things, right? But they don't create, I guess, what you would call a practice tool, which is like, how do you take the law and then turn that into like a software that you can get compliant or do something, right? So they're not into that. I mean, really, the closest company to what we do is probably Intuit TurboTax. Like they're the biggest income tax, like personal income tax or business income tax compliance software. Because that's, I mean, if you ignore the details of the tax versus the HR, it's compliance software. It's like, how do you easily go in and get compliant? Like, make sure that you're following the law for taxes, you're paying your taxes the way you're supposed to, get the refund you're supposed to get, so on. And I think they're the biggest compliance software that's out there. And I know that their team has got access to those laws because they update their software. They don't really sell that out to I don't think they promote it a whole lot, but the nice thing about the space that they're in is income tax law is pretty, I used to be a tax lawyer, is pretty well, there's a lot of it, but it's well organized at a federal and state level. And And it is possible to take those tax laws and build it into a compliance software. Just like on our side, it was, once we had the laws, it was really easy to build that into a compliance software. But until you have the laws, you can't do it. I know TurboTax has to have access to all the laws to keep their content up to date. Otherwise, their software wouldn't be accurate. Same as us. Like you have to have all those laws. And it's not just enough to use somebody else's website to do that. Like you really need to stay on top of it yourself and make sure nothing's getting missed. So anyway, yeah.
I have to say, Secure HR, as somebody who cares about people and cares about our organization, working with Secure HR gives me that feeling of total security, right? So I know that the business and its growth depends on our people and their growth, and those things go hand in hand. And when it comes to HR, it's not just about protecting your business from evil employees, because inherently people aren't evil, I don't believe.
No, they're not.
Having that protection for your people and your company goes hand in hand, and it's the full package of security from Secure HR.
Yeah. All right, gang.
Sounds like a final word.
Yeah, I think it's kind of fun. Where I think we all also have meetings to go to. Like we get to play on camera for part of our day, and then we got to go do other things. Well, thanks for being here, and thanks for listening. And until next week.